you know what I mean? Like, he's just like, most times, like, sometimes he does have a bit more composure, but when he's talking about, like, things he's that passionate about, he's just like, like, he's like, you know, like,
yeah,
he's just a writhing mess of humanity, you know?
yeah.
He's I just love watching him, and it feels good. And I
he
think
feels like a real, sincere, genuine human.
Like, you know what I mean? He's little. That guy is like probably as little pretension as could be in a person. I think, you know, like, he's just like raw.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know. I guess some people could see that as, I don't know, undesirable. Weird.
Well, some people don't like
weak.
Just being like, I don't know. It's I'm not sure what the difference is between people that would render this interaction going one way or the other, but just like getting on a topic of conversation like this, or like the things that Terrence McKenna would talk about, for example. Mm-hmm. And it seems like most people that you just kind of encounter are just not willing to go there. Like, they don't want to get that deep. But then I also meet tons of other people who can't wait to talk about all kinds of crazy stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. That's a big part of the reason I want to start doing this, is just have conversations with whoever and post them. Well, yeah, and it's, like you said, and it was a huge part of the trip that I was on too when I was backpacking across Canada. Just everyone I ran into just had something cool to say, and we got into it.
The whole Ontario stretch or whatever. I mean, obviously the BC stretch too, but
like the whole stretch, the
whole thing, really. Yeah. But when you described like the Ontario part, where you synchronous, like pure synchronicity, just like ran into people who answered the questions that the previous person had, kind of thing, or not really answered, but just like they were like linked.
They like were the answer.
Yeah, they were like
the previous interaction.
They were like just linked to each other in these weird ways.
Yeah,
I guess the way being that you were picked up by all of them, but. It was just
definitely, but I mean, you could say that there was like my brain is just like, you know, we have incredibly efficient pattern recognizing tools, computers in our head. Yeah. But you know, and so I could say that I was just, you know, noticing inconsequential, you know,
similarities,
like chains of fucking coincidence or whatever. But but also it just seemed like not the case at the same time, and you know, these are things that you can't really quantify in any like measurable way. It's just like an experience when like that, like how you always use the word serendipitous all the time for things. It's just it was like that. It was like this is probably too long of a conversation to tell the whole story, but like just little things like there's one cover. So this first guy picked me up. He was really old, just covered in tattoos, and he was pretty cool. But I was thinking like, well, the ride was great, and I thought, more of that guy. And then the next guy who came was like fit the same exact bill. He just like, but he was a bit younger, and he was just like covered in tattoos, like an old punker guy. It was just he had also like both these guys had also hitchhiked a whole bunch across Canada, and then the second guy, him and I were talking a lot about like how grateful we are to be born in a place like Canada, and how much worse off so many other places in the world are. And then the guy who picked me up after that was a guy who was he came here in the 80s as a refugee from somewhere in the Middle East. He just referred to himself as Persian, you know, so one of those places. And one of the conversations we were going on about a whole bunch there was instances of police brutality, and when he's been victims of it, and like cops, because he would go in the States a lot, and he would talk about cops being prejudiced against him because he was Middle Eastern, and like just guns drawn at the side of the truck, you know, yelling at him to get out, and just cops being absolutely insane to this guy. And then the next guy who picked me up was a cop. And there was definitely other things and other nuances and stuff going on, but that's like the short, quick version of that blew me away. The amount of like the way, because I hitchhiked from Ottawa to Toronto, and it took me about 7 hours, so I made pretty good time. It's like a 5-hour drive, I think, roughly. But I just could not believe I never waited more than 10 minutes for a lift, and they were all just, well, that couldn't be right, because it took me 2 extra hours. But I guess, you know, there was some lollygagging and like going on random detours, and one guy had to go let his dog out real quick before he could take me down the road further. So that was the guy who was...
Did he have to go down the road further too, or
was he just no, I think he just took me to the next like logical good exit to leave me at.
Yeah.
Because some exits are better than others.
Okay,
but
that's still pretty kind of him.
It was, yeah. That guy was he pulled over in this Dodge Caliper, and it was my first lift. I'm standing there with my little sign and my thumb out, and just I just shaved my face and everything.
Oh yeah,
gotta look nice,
fully desirable.
Yeah, you gotta be someone that people want to pick up. Or you can be whatever you want. You're just gonna get less rides.
I have a harder time.
It's whatever you want. But this guy picks me up, and I'm just kind of like, oh, sick. First ride, and I get my bag on, and I'm just kind of strutting over to his car, and I see from the back window, he's just like waving his arm at me, like kind of urgently, and I just kind of pick up the pace and jog over, and the window's down a crack, and he's just like, hurry up and get in here! I don't got a driver's license, and I don't got a fucking insurance on its car, and all that stuff. We can't be stopped on the highway, or these cops are gonna show up and arrest us and take my car away. And I was just like, yeah, he said he's on parole too. I'm on parole. Okay. So I threw my bag in the back and hopped in, and get driving and just start shaking hands and talking and saying thank you so much for the ride, blah blah blah. And we started shooting the shit, and eventually I asked him like, so what were you in prison for? And he's just like, oh, break and entering, possession with intent to sell or whatever, distribute, and murder. And he's just casually going and I'm just like, there I go, like, I'm just saying about my mother, like, better not get picked up by some murderer out there. Like the first guy who picks me up
is a murderer.
He's a murderer. He has participated in murder. I don't know if it's a casual hobby or if he's like full-time murdering all the time. But anyway, so I think I was just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And so obviously the elephant in the room is like the murderer, so he just kind of goes into the story of it. And it was apparently while he was in prison, and his cellmate tried to kill him at one point. And he just told me that it was either him or me that day, and so I guess I had more fight in me or something, and he managed to kill him, and then he got like an extra fucking 5 years or more for killing the guy, or 5 or 10 years. I can't remember the details, but yeah. So that was the murder story. Anyways, and so we stopped off at his place for a little bit, let out his golden retriever for a pee, and palled around with the dog for a while, and come back in the car, and he talked me into a good exit, and yep, that was that. That was that guy.
Well, what's funny is that a lot of people will say, I could possibly pick up a hitchhiker that might kill me.
Oh, it's both ways.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, there's more risk for the hitchhiker than the person picking them up.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I think it's a huge leap of faith.
Yeah,
and
before
trust and faith.
I could have just,
It's courageous to It's mutual, like you're the point you're just making. Obviously, it's like I trust that I'm gonna get into this person's car. And you don't just get in, like, well, I did just get in, that guy, but he was yelling at me to get in. I was like, oh, this guy sounds like he knows what's best for me. But
he did,
yeah, it was what was best for me. But so you have usually there's a little bit of an interaction, through the window. It's like, how far down the road are you going or whatever, and then you just you talk for a second. But in those first few seconds with the window down, you just gauge the person out a bit, and it's usually
that's
totally
usually where the
fine.
decisions are made.
I never ever felt afraid for my life at any point, and I never got any bad feelings from anyone to pick me up. I took every single ride that picked me up or that pulled over for me. I didn't turn one of them down. And I never felt like I had to turn any of them down. I didn't get any bad reads. But I definitely think that people need to, mind you, I never was not aware of where my knife is in my pocket and, how much it would take for me to get that knife if I had to. But, I'm not sitting there planning it out or anything really beyond that. It's just, an awareness and a readiness, because you are with a stranger ultimately. But that's the other side of it, is that I'm going to trust that I get in this person's car and they're going to just take me further down the road, and I'm going to get out and say thanks, and that's it. And then they're trusting that I'm going to sit in their car and hopefully I don't smell too bad, and then maybe I'm not insane and easy to talk to or something, and we'll have a nice pleasant drive. A lot of people are making like a long drive and they just want some company or something sometimes, and they pick you up, they want to chat with you. And so one thing that you don't have to necessarily worry about when you're hopping on freight trains is like having to entertain guests, basically. Like, even though you're the guest in the car, but you got to be ready to interact and have a conversation and meet people. And
that's a good point right there. Good. That guests can, or also entertain hosts.
Yeah. I think that's like the idea of having guests. I think you want to be entertained by the people that are around you. Like, you don't want to just be surrounded by a bunch of boring people. God damn it, these people are all so lame.
I don't know. I'm sure certain circles might try something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Where you really want to be the smartest person in the room, literally.
No.
No thanks. Yeah.
No, it feels bad.
It does feel bad because then you're dealing with a bunch of idiots all the time. It's like it's
more
less
than that,
efficient.
Like,
yeah.
Like just that you remember that party we went to, the one I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I do remember that party.
Yeah.
Yeah. The scene here was basically just two groups of people that were friends with we had one mutual friend, and we were gathering at this party, and there was the group that we were a part of, and then this other group, and we were very different groups. And it was great to take advantage of for a little bit.
And we should make the point here, it's just as a disclaimer, that the drastic difference was solely within the same economic background, the same cultural background, the same racial background, give or take.
We were both different groups of mostly white people.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, we weren't just like scheming on how we're going to oppress all the other races. Yeah, we all get together like the white council, white table, the round table. How are we going to marginalize and disenchant everyone? We got to figure it out.
Anyway.
The social justice warriors are going to bring us down to fucking spoil the plot on us.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
and like there literally couldn't have been like. I mean, and even the individuals within those two divides were all so drastically different that the two parties colliding was actually very funny.
It was very funny.
There was a couple of very funny moments.
Well, eventually we got kicked out of the house.
Oh, that's right, we did.
We got kicked out of the house.
Oh, yeah.
And because we were just fucking with these people too bad. It was just like a bunch of like, really, huge wilting hole in their soul, kind of empty, glossy-eyed university students, like going partying at the Dome every weekend or something and just clubbing it up, and it's just every guy was like pulling their V-neck down and flexing every time they picked up a beer or something and just trying to hit on all the girls. And I mean,
and here's
I'm
the
saying
thing,
a lot of things that are like just like standard procedure for most groups of humans, really, but like there's just a weird kind of like disingenuousness to some of these characters, and their lack of character. Yeah, their disingenuity.
It's like I tried listening. I tried to be Switzerland. I was like, I'm gonna listen in on a handful of conversations here and see if I want to join in on any of them.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and Dylan just kept going over to this other group and just like it seemed like he was making a fair effort to bridge some gaps.
Yeah,
and maybe bond a little bit with other humans.
I think so, but he was also pretty drunk, and he was also pretty self-aware that he was taking the piss.
Yeah. Well, they were also just
they were
people that would actually get along with Dylan. He would just like You know how Dylan gets when he meets someone he likes? He starts hyping them up and he loves them. And he's just like, wants to like everyone to love that person he just likes, you know?
Yeah.
And then these people just kept on like giving him ammunition to fire at him with. And